Hey everyone, welcome to Wildlife Inspired. I'm your host, Scott Keys, and you may have heard the phrase bird on a stick. Well, in today's video, we're going to talk about what that means and what it actually can be. And we'll get to it right after this. Now, you may have heard the phrase bird on a stick before, and you may have heard it something like this. Well, that's a pretty image for a bird on a stick, or maybe, hey, that's just another bird on a stick. And it normally doesn't have a very good connotation. It's simple, it's basic, it's elementary. That's sometimes the way I feel when I hear this expression. But in today's video, I want to talk a little bit about that, maybe try to debunk it just a little bit and give you some varying opinions. And as with all of my quick thoughts videos and these opinion pieces, I love your opinions down in the comments. So I'm really curious about this bird on a stick concept. Now, I've gotten comments over on Instagram. It started with a reel that I posted, maybe 20 minutes, and it talked about bird on a stick. Have you ever heard the phrase? I gave some examples. And this video is kind of an elaboration of that concept. I got a lot of comments on that. Some people had never heard that expression. Some people were kind of like, yeah, it is kind of a negative connotation, or it bothers me when I hear that. Today's video, we're going to talk a little bit about that. And I want to start with a comment actually made by one of my friends. And this is Georgina. I'm going to pull this up real quick. I'll put it down over here so you can read it. I've talked to her about this, by the way, so I'm not calling her out. She's actually a friend of the show. I really, really enjoy her and a wonderful photographer. But she basically said, I use bird on a stick to connotate a traditional kind of bird photography that is artistically limited. And I got to that first sentence and I was like, ooh, like Georgina, you hurt me a little bit, because I post plenty of birds on sticks. And I'm going to show you an example of some of that. We're going to talk about that. She also made some comments about a specific type of bird on a stick photography. And we're going to distinguish two styles, I think, in this video. So one style is going to be these setup perches. I'll try to show you some examples. Not normally my style of photography. The style I'll focus on, because it's more in line with what I do, is kind of these natural birds on sticks, and how to take a bird on stick image and make it really pretty without the need to do setups. I think Georgina had this opinion that using setups, calling birds in, using feeders, bringing them out into the open, kind of taking birds out of their natural environment and imposing them into I'm going to call it a bird studio, like a setup area. I've seen photographers, and you may have seen this, you may have not even known this happened, but where perches are set up on a pole or whatever, they're interchangeable. And then there's actually backdrops placed. So those clean backdrops that a lot of photographers want are painted, or just canvases that are back behind the bird. And they may involve flash setups and things like that. So you're actually, bringing birds out of the natural environment onto these setup perches. Now, this is not a topic specifically about setup perches. It's not my style. There's some things I don't particularly like about that. I don't always think it looks natural. Knowing birds, I know that maybe a native warbler isn't supposed to perch on a European flowering tree. Like, that doesn't look natural to me, but it is very popular with a lot of people. They actually prefer that and they aspire to it. So I think Georgina's message was a little bit more around that, but I will take a little bit of offense to the fact that it doesn't have to be artistically limited. I hope to prove that to you today. So I've got some examples like I normally do. I love on this channel, I love to show you examples. Now, I'm going to start with actually showing you a setup perch that I did. This is from 2017. So this is from a while ago. I had to go way back in the archives to find a perch that I cut down and put next to a feeder and took pictures of. I'm not saying I've never done it. Normally, if I do this type of photography, it's to test equipment. So I just know I get a kind of a controlled setup. But I found this holly branch. It had a couple berries on it. I don't even think this is the greatest perch in the world, but you may see this photography. The background here is natural. This isn't one of those canvases, but it's very, very kind of plain, basic. It's got a pattern, which I actually like, but you may see this as just solid color almost in the background. Again, a lot of people like this style. I found one in my archives. This is not, by the way, set up. This is actually a natural perch, but it's very similar to what you might see from these setups, which is a single branch or a stick with interest. So the interest is normally flowering, like little berries or, something on that perch to bring interest, not just a plain stick. In my photography, I take images of hundreds a year, hundreds of birds just on plain sticks with no interest. And I'm going to try to show you that today. Now, this first example actually is a stick with some interest. So this is a natural branch. It's not a setup, but it feels like a combination. It's a little natural, feels a little setup. This isn't really what I'm talking about when I talk about bird on a stick. I'm going to show you images of birds on sticks, and I want you to notice a common theme in all of them. I'm not going to call it out just yet, but I want you to notice. Now, some people have said, I have no interest in bird on sticks, but if they're feeding or doing something interesting, I'll try to capture it. That's what I'm interested in. This actually does have a little feeding activity, but I got to be honest, I don't think you need any of it. Sometimes a bird on a stick can be beautiful. Now look at the colors. Are you getting a theme here? Are you getting kind of the gist of what I'm showing in some of these images? Notice this is a stick on every image. Nothing but a stick. One thing I wanted to talk about, and I'll pause on this because this is, I think, one of the images I used in my Instagram story, is where do birds live? So a bird like this vireo is under the family of passerines. And what that actually means is perching bird. These birds are designed to land on sticks. It's actually the way their feet are designed. That's what the family of birds means. It's about half of all of the birds in the world are birds that perch and mostly on sticks. So if we're bird photographers and we're going to say, I'm not photographing birds on sticks, I don't know that that feels real natural. So again, two types of photography, kind of the setup photography with the pretty perches, the pretty sticks, and the plain backgrounds, versus what I'm showing you now, which is kind of the style I've liked, which is natural environments and not necessarily a focus on having these amazing perches. It doesn't always have to be. But you're going to find that you need something. Because if this was a blue sky, and I'll kind of Photoshop this real quick and show it to you. If this was a blue sky image, not very interesting. If that background was just bland. Also, if the background included a lot of sticks. Show you some of my older photography when I first started. You know, these aren't beautiful pictures. I'll be honest with you. These aren't beautiful pictures because it lacks the total environment, the total habitat, and it lacks color. Notice these plain sticks. Again, just a plain stick. But there's something in the background that offers interest. And these backgrounds are all patterned, many taken during fall, which is one of my favorite times to photograph because in spring, you do get things just starting to leaf out. In summer, you get a lot of green. In fall, you get a lot of color. And so when I'm photographing these birds on sticks in fall, a lot of times, the birds aren't at their prettiest. The perches aren't at their prettiest. But what I find is when you can accentuate the background, you can get some really amazing images. Depth of field comes into play sometimes. So you can see this one's really, really close and just how it feels like it's almost three-dimensional with that depth. Here you show the habitat, the total habitat. That stick is nothing special. It's just a bird on a stick, but it's not. And I want to try to debunk that myth that birds on sticks aren't pretty or that there's a stigma attached to them. We don't have to be ashamed of photographing birds where they actually like to live, where they actually are, where they're designed by nature to be, which is often on sticks. So here's a variety. Notice the color in the background. And this is the whole point of the video. The point of this video was just to say a bird on a stick doesn't have to be a bad thing, and don't be ashamed of it. If you're photographing birds where they are built to be, try to accentuate them. Try to find a couple of characteristics to make them beautiful. And one of the things I will tell you is as the perch is prettier, as the perch is more beautiful and in bloom, maybe the background doesn't matter as much. But when the perch is very basic, and it literally is just a bird on a stick, think about what's behind it. Because those colors really, really make a difference. The environment will really, really make a difference. And you can make a beautiful image, and I hope I've illustrated it. You can make a beautiful image of birds on sticks as long as there are compliments to that bird and the total image overall becomes very, very pleasing. Focus on light. As always on my channel, I'll tell you, focus on light, focus on background, focus on environment. Don't just focus on the subject. Now, that's my video for you today. Not a real long one. I am really, really interested though. I'm really, really interested in your comments on this one. Talk to me about birds and sticks down in the comment. Let me find out your opinion. Do you feel that they are stigmatized? Do you sometimes feel like, oh, I'm just posting a bird on a stick? And have you ever thought about the mindset behind things like light and background while photographing that may change your perspective a little bit? So I'd like to know all of that down in the comments. If you're not subscribed to the channel, hit the little subscribe button down there. Would love to see a few new subscribers after this video is posted, and the little bell for notifications lets you know when I have a new video out. Hopefully you like the whole wildlife series, but I'm a bird photographer first, so I hope you like this video. And as always, I hope we can continue to find inspiration in wildlife together.